सर ज्वाइन करिए, ज्वाइन करिए।
Or discrimination between things permanent and transient, renunciation of the enjoyments of the fruits of action in this world and in the next. The six treasures, Khat Sampatti, Shat Sampatti, as they are called, that is, not allowing the mind to externalize and checking the external instruments of sense organs, Sama and Dama, not thinking of the senses, Upareti, ideal taught forbearance, Titiksha, consistent practice to the fix thy mind in Samadhana, God or Master, and the faith, Shraddha, and the intense desire for to be free, to get liberated, mokshatva. These are the qualifications prescribed in Vivek Chudamani and also slightly in different language in at the feet of Master. So these are prerequisites before one can start even inquiry about Brahman. Uh, that means one must be practicing these six qualifications or four qualifications, including third one having six attributes before one can start inquiring into Brahman. So Sutra 2, that means inquiry into Brahman is equivalent to entering into the path. Sutra 2 deals with the topic definition of Brahman. The definition of Brahman is that omniscient, omnipotent cause from which proceed the origin, etc., origin of all things, that is sustenance and dissolution of this world, including all beings and things in this world. The scriptures give another definition of Brahman, which describes its nature, truth, knowledge, infinity in Brahman. This is called the Swarupa Lakshana, that which defines Brahman in its true essence. The one is first is definition by function, and second is definition by its Lakshana, Swarupa Lakshana. In Sutra 2 becomes all this corroborated, both the definitions. Scriptures ought to be the basis of all reasoning. Yesterday we said that Brahma Sutra based on reasoning, but the starting point for reasoning for the purpose of comprehending the nature of Brahman are the writings in the Shruti, scriptures, that means Upanishad. That should be, from there one has to start. It is experience that carries weight, and scriptures are authoritative because they are the record of the experience of the masterminds, the great sages that have come face to face with reality. The Shrutis are recorded by the great sages who have experienced personally the reality, and therefore those descriptions in Shruti form the basis for human being on this journey of realizing Brahman or knowing Brahman. Uh, why the scriptures are infallible? The scriptures are infallible, that means they cannot be subject to any mistake or error because they are directly seen by the great sages. That is why they call Shruti. When scripture is mentioned, it is only to the Upanishad, Shrutis. Hence, in ascertaining the first cause, the scripture alone are authority. Now, here, Brahma Sutra is terming Brahman as first cause. In whole of Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, The word Brahman is used, not Parabrahman. Parabrahman is used in later writings of Shankaracharya, and therefore sometimes there is a mixing of what is described as Brahman and Parabrahman in our theosophical literature. So that we have to keep in mind. It is experience that carries weight because pictures are authoritative because they are the record of the experience of the mastermind, the great sages that have come face to face with the reality of Apatavakya. That's why scriptures are infallible. Hence, in ascertaining the first cause, the scriptures alone are authority. The prime object of this sutra is to discuss scriptures, scriptural passages, which declare that Brahman is the first cause. Texts like that from which these beings are born, by which they live after birth, and into which they enter at death. This is Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1. The sutra collects the Vedanta texts for the full comprehension of Brahman. Any reasoning on this must be corroborated of the truth inculcated. This kind of reasoning include the hearing of the text, shravana, thinking about their meaning, manana, and meditation on them, nitya. So these three functions of the mind, by these three functions of mind and sense organs, that is shravana, thinking, manana, and nididhyasana, we can proceed on the journey of knowing Brahman. So this means that only reading is not sufficient. On the reading the definition as given in the Shruti or this Upanishad, we have to think deeply. First, we have to shravan either by reading or by hearing somebody speaking, and then thinking over it, contemplating manana, and then deeper meditation on that. Then this process leads to intuition. Then intuition is awakened and the self-realization occurs. By intuition is meant that mental modification, vritti, of the mind, chitta, which destroys our ignorance about Brahman. In theosophical terms, we can say our mind merges into higher mind and then also merges into buddhi. It becomes tejas manas. Then it is capable of realizing or knowing the Brahman. When the ignorance is destroyed by this mental mortification in the form of Brahman, Brahmakara Vritti, then Brahman, which is self-luminous, reveals itself. In ordinary perception, when we cognize an object, the mind chitta takes the form of the external object, which destroys the ignorance about it and consciousness reflected in this modification. Destroys the ignorance, but Brahman, which is consciousness pure and simple, manifests itself being self-luminous. Here the commentator or sutra is trying to differentiate between two types of cognizance. One is cognizance of worldly objects. When you try to cognize worldly objects, then our mind itself modifies in the shape of that object, external object. Why the light has gone? Hello? Something else. So this mental modification occurs when we try to cognize outer object. But in case of thinking and contemplating a Brahman, such modification does not occur. The consciousness rises to higher level. That means buddhic and higher manasik and buddhic level. And there the inner feeling, inner perception of the Brahman occurs. That's why the second grade to say that it cannot be tasted, it cannot be seen, it cannot be heard, but it can be perceived if there is intense desire for perception. So that is according to this, this description. So this is the script. Thus, the scripture describes Brahman as not this, not neti, neti, or not yet, thus removing the ignorance about it. Nowhere is Brahman described in positive term. Now here, this description or statement is about Nirguna Brahman or Para Brahman. It cannot be described. It can be described in only negative terms because it is no thing, no being. Sutra 3 deals with the topic Brahman cognizable only through the scriptures. But the starting point is the scriptures, reading the description of the Brahman as given in the scriptures, that means Upanishad, particularly the oldest Upanishad like Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad. There we should start. The Brahman, the main purport of Vedanta text. The Sutra 4 of the Brahma Sutra says that the Brahman is the main purport of all Vedanta texts. All the Vedanta texts, that means all the Upanishad, make attempt to describe and also to make it understandable by sadhaka the nature of Brahman, and in that process the sadhaka to realize himself or herself as Brahman. This is the whole subject of all the Upanishad in a different forms and different words. Now Sutra 5 to 11 deal with the topic the first cause and intelligent principle. As yesterday I mentioned that the Sutrakara or Badarayan or Vedavyas has tried to systematize the writings or descriptions in the Upanishad in, say, subject-wise. So a group of sutra describe particular subject, a particular topic. So Sutra 5 to 11 deals with the topic, the first cause as intelligent principle. First cause, an intelligent principle. Now here, there we should understand the difference between our theoretical writing and this description. In the secret doctrine, the Parabrahman is not the first cause, he is a causeless cause. And only the first manifested Logos or Brahman is the first cause from which everything comes out. But here, in the Brahma Sutta description, the Brahman itself is cause, first cause, and later on it is described because the Brahman, when manifested, is the source of all cause, and therefore there is no error.
No, Avantis. Well, keep it in Avantis room.
Who is talking? Then Sutra 511 refute the arguments of the Sankhya that Pradhana is the first cause. Yesterday I mentioned that in Brahma Sutra, Badrayan or the Vedavyas makes attempt to compare the ideas reflected in other philosophy like Sankhya, Tattva-Mimamsa, and Advaita Vedanta. So here he is trying to say that in Sankhya, the Pradhana is considered first cause, source of all being, all universe. Now, this discussion mainly refers to 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad and which refutes the contention of Sankhya philosophy. That is, Pradhana is the source of all. Pradhana means Mool Prakriti. According to Vedantic philosophy, Mool Prakriti is an aspect of Parabrahman. So Parabrahman or Brahman is the root cause, but it manifests through the Mool Prakriti, its own aspect. Then Sutra 5 indicates the first cause and intelligent principle on account of thinking being attributed to the first cause in the scriptures. The Pradhana is not the first cause referred to by them because it is not based on the scriptures and it is not thinking, it does not possess thinking principle. That which Mahat or thinking principle comes only after the interaction between the Parabrahman and Mool Prakriti, and ideation comes from the Parabrahman, ideation, motion, and space, as per description in the secret doctrine. Here, the same idea is brought in different uh, language, that Pradhana or Mool Prakriti on itself cannot be intelligent principle. And therefore, the intelligent principle or ideation in the language of the secret doctrine and Mahat, they come from the Brahman or Parabrahman. That and man's thinking principle is a part of that. So man's thinking principle is also has source in Brahman. The first cause is said in the scriptures to have willed or thought before creation. The universe, my dear, was but the real Satpata Brahman. It is said, real in the beginning, one only without a second. In thought, it thought, may I be many, may I grow, and it projected fire. Chandogya Upanishad. It, the Atman, willed, let me project worlds. So it projected these worlds at Triya Upanishad. Such thinking and willing is not possible to the insentient Pradhana Tattva. It is possible only the first cause is an intelligent principle like Brahman. Now here again we should try to compare what the secret doctrine writing and writing of theosophical writing says. In theosophical writing and master's letter, they refer to Swabhavat principle. That means there is no thinking or willing, as mentioned in the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Ekoam Bhaushyam. It is own Swabhava, Swabhavat. It manifests, whole world gets manifested and dissolves. Manvantar and Pralaya occurs by just Swabhavata. Its Swabhava is like that, nature is like that. So, but thinking that I should be many, I should grow, is mentioned in the Upanishad scriptures, in the Shruti, probably to make the human mind more comprehensible, because human mind cannot comprehend the Swabhavat concept. And therefore, probably to that end, this description is there. So while reading a script, a text like Upanishad and Brahma Sutra, we also try to keep in mind what the secret doctrine and writings of the master say about those principles. Then only we can have a complete picture and the reason why this description is given. Sutra 10 says, because all the Vedanta texts uniformly refer to an intelligent principle as the first cause, Brahman is to be taken as that cause. Sutra 11 says that all-knowing Brahman alone is the first cause of this world because it is known directly from the Vedas also. Then Sutra 12 onwards till practically the end of the chapter, this chapter, first chapter, a new topic is taken up for discussion with whether certain terms found in the Upanishad are used in their ordinary senses or as referring to Brahman. Again, the Upanishads speak of two types of Brahman, the Nirguna Brahman without attributes and Saguna Brahman without attributes and Saguna Brahman with attributes. Meditation on the Saguna Brahman cannot lead to immediate liberation. Yesterday also I mentioned this thing briefly, here it is repeated. Meditation on Saguna Brahman cannot lead to immediate realization of the I think something wrong. It can at best lead to the gradual liberation, Karam Mukti. So, the realization of Sagun Brahman can happen only gradually as the man does proper karma and gets freed from the karma phala. But realization of Nirgun Brahman can bring immediate liberation. The knowledge of Nirgun Brahman alone leads to immediate liberation. This is very clearly mentioned in this Brahma Sutra. The issue of the Sagun and Nirgun Brahma is not, however, kept up all through in the description. Now, Sutra 12 to 9 deal with the topic concerning the self consisting the bliss. Now, in further sutra, the various attributes of Brahman are being described so as to make the concept or reality of Brahman more comprehensible to human mind. So, Sutras 12 to 9 deal with the topic concerning the self containing the consisting of bliss. That means Brahman is bliss, Ananda. And then it is quoting Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5, which says, different from this self, which consists of understanding, Vijnanmaya, is the inner self, which consists of bliss. Different from this self means our own self, Jiva. The other self consists of bliss. Brahman is bliss. Joy is the head. Joy is the head. Satisfaction is right wing. Rapture is left wing. Bliss in its trunk. Brahman is the tail, the support. So Brahman, when it is called bliss, bliss incorporates all the various degrees of happiness, that is joy and rapture and satisfaction. All that comes with that bliss. That means person who attains to Brahman, he experiences bliss and he remains satisfied with whatever happens in the life. He joyful in every situation, and he is also in rapturous, that means in almost samadhic state, if he is that Ananda. Then he says, for all these attributes of the happiness or joy, the Brahman becomes a tail. Here, tail means a support, basis of that. But Brahman is described here, self consisting of bliss, it's full of bliss. Then Sutras 20 and 21 deal with the topic, the person in the sun and I is Brahman. Person in the sun and I is Brahman. Now here, to make the understand the human mind about the reality or Brahman, the various examples are being given. The person in the sun and I is Brahman. What does it mean? Person in the sun. Sun, what we see physically, is the outer garment of the spiritual sun, as already mentioned in the Secret Doctrine and other writings of Blavatsky, spiritual sun. So spiritual sun is the real person, whose body is the sun, visible sun. So that person, spiritual sun, is Brahman, manifested Brahman or Saguna Brahman. And I is Brahman. I means our pineal gland, by which the real I, inner I, we can feel intuitively the existence of Brahman. So the description is person in the sun and I is Brahman. It is written by Blavatsky that when our pineal gland develops, then man becomes Sarvagya. He becomes Brahman. So that is the here shortment, I is Brahman. Sutra 22 deals with the topic, the word Akasha to be understood as Brahman. Not the ether element. Akasha is Brahman. Akasha means whole space, not the visible space, but the basis of the visible space, which itself is the mood Prakriti, because everything comes out of mood Prakriti, so that is itself the Brahman, but not the Akasha element, which is the ether described. Again, Blavatsky also clarified, this is not the ether, but aether, she spells A-E-T-H-E-R, that Akasha. Then Sutra 23 deals with the topic, the word prana to be understood as Brahman. Prana. But that prana, which is described as Brahman, is not the ordinary vital force which we breathe in and breathe out along with the air. It is the basis, very basis of that prana. That means a source of prana. And as we know, all the pranic energy comes from the sun or spiritual sun. And therefore, the prana is described as Brahman. it is used in the text like the prana of the prana, that prana of the prana. That means basis of the prana, which is the spiritual sun. So that is Brahman. 24 to 27 deal with the topic, the word light to be understood as Brahman. Light to be understood as Brahman. Light means what? Light means the dispelling of ignorance. The light, inner light, which comes in our inner being, that is Brahman, and source of that is Brahman. Whatever knowledge about these subtler things we gain, that arises from our inner light. When our consciousness of buddhi awakened, gets activated, that becomes light, which throws on the reality, and we then try to perceive that reality. So in that light is the Brahman. Tejas Manas. Sutra 28 to 31 deal with the topic. Indra's instruction to Pratardana is Brahman. Now here it is referring to a story mentioned in the Kaushiki Upanishad. There is a conversation between Indra, the king of the Devas, and Patardana, there is another being, in which the latter says to Indra, "You yourself choose for me the boon which you deem most beneficent to man." Probably this Patardana did something good, and Indra promised him boon and asked which boon he wants. Then he replied, "You yourself choose the boon which is most beneficial to human being, to man." "I am prana." Then Indra replies, "I am prana, the intelligent self, pragyatman, meditate on me as life, as immortality. And that prana is indeed the intelligent self, blessed, undecaying, immortal." So Indra tries to describe this thing, this knowledge is most beneficial to human being. So prana here means Brahman. The base knowledge of this prana is also said to absolve one from the sins. "He who knows me thus, by no deed of this, he is in his achievement harmed, neither by matricide or by patricide." This is mentioned in Kaustiki Upanishad. That the person who realizes the Brahman, his own life, his own inner life as Brahman, he cannot commit any harm, and he is not affected by sin, even if some harm in the eyes of the world is done wrongly. Here say patricide, matricide, these are only say adjectives. That means even the certain actions of that person may appear to the world as wrong, but that will not accrue any sin to him. These sutras mention and explain the Indra's instruction to Pratardana that prana is Brahman, and that he, Indra or inner self man, Indra means not the outer body of Indra, but inner self, Atman, is Brahman. Sutra 30 mentions about Rishi Vamadeva also having realized the truth and therefore saying that he is Brahman. So these instances of Indra conversation, Pratardana and Vamadeva is being given in Brahma Sutra to make it clear that a person, when whether Deva or Rishi, when they realize that Brahman, they themselves feel or perceive as Brahman. That means duality or separation between Brahman and that entity gets dissolved. So Vamadeva is quoted having said, "Whatever the gods knew it, Brahman became that." This is given from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.4.10. What is happening this? Indra's instruction also is like that. "Having realized the truth, thou art that." This is a famous sentence uttered by the father of Shvetiketu, to Shvetiketu, that when you realize Brahman, thou art that. That means you are Brahman, declared by the scripture. He identifies himself in the instructions with the Supreme Brahman. So this is the section 1, attempting to deal with the certain aspects of Brahman so that a sadhaka can better comprehend the realization of Brahman or how to realize it. And giving some example of Indra and Vamdeva rishis, sages. Then we come to section 2 of chapter 2. It consists of 32 sutras. Sutra 1 to 8 deal with the topic. The being consisting of the mind is Brahman. Being consisting of the mind is Brahman. That means our mind, it is already mentioned in theosophical writing, our mind is a part of Mahat and which has arisen from the Brahman itself. So in that sense, our mind is Brahman. And when the mind rises above, then it attains to that Brahman state. By mind only, we can first listen and then start meditating and then reach that Brahman state. So that way, mind has been described as Brahman. But we should not say ordinary mind, which is involved in the worldly things. When mind thinking at higher level, universal things, then it reaches near Brahman level of consciousness. Sutra 1 to 8 show that the being who consists of the mind, Manomaya, and is prescribed as the object of Upasana or meditation in the text, all this indeed is Brahman. For it has its beginning, end, and substance in it. So let a man meditate with a calm mind. So to realize Brahman, the mind has to be calm, completely still. Then only these nobler ideas or abstract ideas will reflect and we can perceive the Brahman. So mind meditation is necessary. This sutra says, he who consists of the mind, whose body is prana, the subtle body, etc., Chandogya Upanishad says, is Brahman. He who consists of the mind, this mind, calm mind, and who is prana, the subtle body, is also purified in line with that calm mind, that is also still, then he realizes Brahman. That Brahman described is not individual soul, because the text begins with the all this is Brahman, wherein that Brahman, which is treated as the cause of the universe, is all the spiritual text is described. So what is Brahman? Here some doubt arose by one of the other philosophers that here description about Jiva, but this text of Brahma Sutra says this is not referred to Jiva but Brahman itself. Sutra 6 says, from the Smriti also we learn that the individual soul is different from the one referred to in the text under discussion. Individual soul means our soul, human soul, other body soul. In manifested stage, at lower stage, in worldly stage, is different from the Brahman. Only when the soul rises at higher level, in theosophical terms, it merges with the monadic level, then it can realize Brahman. The spirit referred to is the Lord Gita. The Lord, O Arjuna, is seated in the hearts of all beings. In Gita it is said by Krishna that Paramatman is seated in the hearts of all beings. We must not forget, however, that according to the Advaita Vedanta, the difference is only imaginary and not real. Difference between what? Difference between the soul and the Brahman. The difference exists only so long as ignorant lost and the ultimate importance of the text that art thou has not been realized. So difference between the Jiva and the Brahman occurs only till the realization of the Brahman, when the soul realizes that itself is the Brahman. Then Sutra 9 and 10 deal with the topic, the eater is Brahman. Eater is Brahman. Brahman is Bhokta. Brahman is Bhokta in the sense Just like food we take, absorb in ourselves, food goes inside us. Similarly, whole world, manifested world, merges into Brahman at the time of Pralaya. So in that sense, Brahman is eater, bhokta of all whole universe, eater of Brahman. Because both the movable, immovable, charachar, that the entire universe are reabsorbed into Brahman at the close of Manvantara. So Brahman is called as eater of eater. That is one quality. The fact that death, which destroys everything else, is swallowed up as a condiment shows that the entire creation is referred to as his food. So even death is also swallowed by the Brahman at the time of the Mahapralaya, and that is why it is called eater. Bhokta. Sutra 11 and 12 deal with the topic. The two that have entered the cavity of the heart are the individual soul and Brahman. Cavity of heart, even for having perception of one's soul, we have to meditate on the heart and also for Brahman. It is said that the soul's place is in heart in our Upanishad text, like Katha Upanishad. So both find their place, that means Jiva and the Brahman, in the cavity of heart. Not this biological heart, but in the cavity of heart or heart chakra. The vital energy is Brahman, bliss is Brahman, the ether is Brahman, Chandogya Upanishad says. So taught the fires to the Upakosla, Kamal Nayana about Brahman, and the same Brahman is further elucidated by his teacher as the person in the eye. In the eye, I mentioned to you, clarified that in the spiritual eye. By spiritual eye, what we perceive when person becomes Sarvagya, he sees he realizes the Brahman. Then Sutra 18 to 20 deals with the topic, the ruler within is Brahman. This is compared to Sampra, ruler, inner ruler. That means our higher self, our Atman is Brahman. I am Atma, Brahman, as the Upanishad says. So our inner ruler, our higher self, Atman is Brahman. Dost thou know the inner ruler, etc. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, and again, he who inhabits the earth but is within it, whom the earth does not know, is the internal ruler, your own immortal self. Here earth we can interpret as physical body, objective world. So the ruler is inside physical body or objective world, though the objective world or physical body does not know it, but inner ruler or higher self is inside the physical body, and physical body sustenance is by through energy of the higher self. We should not forget that the difference of the internal ruler, the Supreme Lord, and the individual soul is merely the byproduct of nescience. Nescience means ignorance. The difference between the inner ruler and this individual soul is the product of the ignorance. So long we are ignorant of our real nature, this difference we perceive. There is only one self within, for two selves are not possible, but owing to limiting adjuncts, the one self is treated as if it were two. Here the Brahma Sutra is trying to explain that the description of two, sometimes in the Upanishad or other Smriti, is mentioned only in relative term. In reality, the Jiva and the Brahman are same, because in that cavity of heart, there cannot be two existence, two beings, there is only one. Sutra 21 to 23 deals with the topic, that which cannot be seen is Brahman, that which cannot be seen is Brahman. It is same, second great truth, which cannot be seen or perceived by senses, cannot be seen by mortal eyes, cannot be heard by mortal ears, cannot be sensed. So that is Brahman. That which cannot be seen nor seized, which is without origin, eternal, all-pervading, omnipresent, extremely subtle, the source of all beings, which the wise behold, Mundak Upanishad. He is all-knowing, all-perceiving, again Mundak Upanishad 119. So here is quoting all, this is what invisible to our sense organs. And we have to, as a sadhaka, we have to try to perceive that invisible with intense desire. Here I refer to Light on the Path, Part-2, verses 19 to 21, which says, hold fast to that which has neither substance nor existence. Listen only to the voice which is soundless. Look only on that which is invisible, alive to the inner and the outer senses. The same idea is being reflected in the three verses of Light and Path, last three verses of the Part-2 of the Light and Path. Then Sutra 24 to 32 deal with the topic Vaishwanara is Brahman. Vaishwanara, yesterday I mentioned T. Subbarao in his lecture on philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, he has said Vaishwanara is the basis of the objective world. But here in Brahma Sutra, Vaishwanara has been described as fire, including the gastric fire. Fire which sustains the life, which is self-life, like gastric fire is Vaishwanara. In fact, the two descriptions are identical if you think the basis of the objective world. Fire is the basis of our existence, our physical body, an objective world. So in that sense, Vaishwanara is itself Brahman. But he who worships this Vaishwanara self extending from heaven to earth as identical with his own self, eats food in all beings, in all selves of that Vaishwanara self. Sutileja is heaven, the head, the sun, the eye, etc. Chandogya Upanishad. Vaishwanara generally means fire, the presiding deity of gastric fire, but here it is used referring to Brahman. Sutra 25, because that cosmic form of Supreme Lord, which is described in Smriti, must be an indicatory rank from which we arrive at the meaning of the Shruti. That means this fire or gastric fire is only indicatory means to understand Brahman, nature of Brahman, as being basis of the objective world. The Smritis are interpretation of the Shruti text. The Shruti describes the cosmic form of the Supreme Lord as he whose mouth is the fire, whose head is the heaven, whose ears are the regions, salutations to him, whose body is inverse, which agrees with the description in the text under discussion. Hence, we have to conclude that the highest Lord is referred in the text, Vaishwanara. Then Sutra 28 says that Vaishwanara can be taken directly to mean Brahman as an object of contemplation, for Vaishwanara is the same as Vaishwanara, which means the universal man or heavenly man, Purushottama, the all-perceiving Brahman itself. So Vaishwanara or the objective world is reflecting or image of the Purushottama, which is the heavenly man or the higher self, and which is Brahman itself. Sutra 30 says, for the purpose of constant remembrance, so say Badri. Badri means Badarayan, who has written the Brahma Sutra. He says, this description that Vaishnava is Brahman is for the man to constantly remember that in the world which is working, whole world, objective world, its basis is Brahman. The highest Lord may be called measured by span to render the term Pradesh Matra differently, because he is remembered through the mind which is seated in the heart, and the heart is of the size of a span. One description comes in the text that Brahman is a span, the measure of the from the thumb to the this one finger, one span. So this is described in two ways: the distance from the top of the head to the chin, because whole thinking mind principle through which the Brahman is to be contemplated is located here, and also the pineal gland, the eye, which can perceive it, and also mouth, which can speak on this. So this from the head to the chin. is called the measure of the Brahman. And the definition is that heart is the size of a span. So heart is also described as the inhabitation place of Brahman. So meditation on the heart and meditation on the this one pineal gland will help man to realize the nature of Brahman, that he is Brahman. Sutra 31 says, because of the imaginary entity, the Supreme Lord may be called span, for so says Gemini, for so full Shruti declares. Gemini is quoting Gemini says. He also says that Brahman can be described as span. Now here it mentioned that Sampat Upasana is a kind of meditation in which something is imagined as identical with something else on account of some kind of similarity or likeness. As for example, when the cosmic being or Purusha is worshipped through the identification of different limbs with different parts of the worshipper's body, from the top of his head to the chin, the head of the worshipper is heaven, the eyes the sun and the moon, and so on. In this meditation of the cosmic person, he is limited to the size of span, the distance from the top of the head to the chin. Therefore, says Gemini, the Supreme Lord is regarded as the size of span. Now, Sutra 32 says that this Supreme Lord is to be meditated upon in this space. In this space, means head to chin. That means our concentration or meditation should be concentrated only in the mind and not scattered in other places of the body. Sutra 27 to 32 justified the reference to the Supreme Lord by the term Pradesh Matra or span as extending from heaven to earth or as measured by span. So this covers the section 1 and 2. Now the time is only 4 minutes, so I will conclude here, and tomorrow I'll take section 3 and section 4. So on section 1 and section 2, I have tried to give briefly, the subject matter is very large, how this section 1 and section 2 of chapter 1 tries to describe the various aspects of Brahman by various definitions and various objects known to us, known each of us, so that our comprehension of Brahman becomes easy. So thank you very much. Anybody can add anything?
पांडे जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. बहुत गहन गंभीर विषय और जो सूत्र है वो हमारे ऋषियों ने अपने जीवन काल में प्राप्त की हुई अनुभूति है, उसी के ऊपर आपने प्रकाश डाला है. और सामान्यतः जिन्होंने जीवन की साधना से जो कुछ पाया है वही सूत्रबद्ध किया. और बहुत अच्छे से आपने इसको डिस्क्राइब किया और थोड़ा थियोसॉफी में इसको अलग ढंग से बताया गया है. तो मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं. और इस आज के टॉक के ऊपर किसी को कोई कमेंट्स करना है या कुछ ऐड करना है तो ये मंच आपके लिए खुला है.
That's why in between I'm bringing the what is described in Theosophy and Secret Doctrine, comparing. This is not given in Sutras.
Sir, could you repeat the name of the book that you have made the study of? The author?
Author is Badrayan and Brahma Sutra, this one Ved Vyas, but this is a book published by Advaita Ashram, and the commentary is by Swami Vishweswarananda. But I'm not going on commentary because that becomes too long. I'm only going by the main text.
Okay.
And I'm supplementing with whatever has been said in our theoretical writings to make us better understand. Okay. I think no other comment. So we
एक
can.
मिनट, थोड़ा एक मिनट,
Hmm?
मैंने हेलो सर,
Yes.
और फिर किसी को कुछ ऐड करना है तो कर सकते हैं, मंच खुला है। अगर नहीं करते हैं तो मैं विमल जी से प्रार्थना करूंगा, रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि क्लोजिंग प्रेयर वो कहें।
Okay, sir. Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya sarve bhavantu sukhina sarve santu niramaya सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। शांति शांति। Thank you.
So tomorrow we'll cover section 3 and section 4 of chapter 1.
इसी प्रार्थना के साथ आज का सेशन क्लोज करने के लिए मैं बंधु महापात्रा जी को रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं।